people who seek, I think, I go back to the early days, so it was any people who were seeking something somehow helped shape my life. My grandfather also, again, because the question aspect, asking questions is, I think the word seeker is misused, as if it's only people out there seeking. But if you're not seeking, then you're not learning. And my grandfather had this saying, if the day that you stop learning is the day you die. And so every day there's a lesson. Every day you should be learning. And so I guess I practiced that. So I go back to that early upbringing in this house. So I grew up in, they're all atheists. All my family are atheists or agnostic, like slightly interested. But they were seeking about learning in life. And something my father learned, who was a strong, strict atheist, whatever you say. And I think I learned so much from him. Because one day when we talked about spirituality and the question, how could you... I believe in God, and I couldn't believe why he doesn't believe in God, and he couldn't believe why I did believe in God. So his answer to me was, oh, well, the thing about people who believe in God, often they have this thing about eternity, and so they're working towards something. And he said, me, I just live day by day. Every day is like the last. And I go, well, actually, that's what I want to live like. Yeah, so the moment by moment thing, that's living in the moment, and that's actually where the best expressions of art come from in the moment. The best expressions of love come from the moment. And so, that's the early mentoring on a spiritual way were from two people who were atheists, and I guess they just shaped my outlook on life. And that's a puzzle I have no answer to. And then the first person I met that lived up to my expectations of what a spiritual, creative person was. Because I admit, I started seeking, I started going to church a little bit, and the expression of art in the church was pretty bad, and it's not got any better in most places. And so, from a creative person with a desire to become a great musician, it's almost like, oh my God, shoot me now. This is what I have to put up with. And then I met a guy called Nigel Compton, and it was, it's like the chalk and cheese thing, black and white. It was such a difference. And he had a kind of, Sting would be the closest type of artist in the sense, from in those days, because he was a poet, and because his songs were challenging. He asked questions, and they're so melodic and so beautiful. And so the first time I heard him play, and then we had a conversation about it, I could actually, it's almost like, you meet, you go somewhere, oh, now I can talk to somebody, and he knew where I was coming from. And so he was running a school of creative arts in Sydney, and when he discovered what I was doing for a living, he got me in to teach there. I taught on arranging and programming, it was those days with loops and everything. And I loved the thing so much I actually enrolled in the college the following year. I know that's another Irish thing to do, but went from student to lecturer, and then the next year, the other way around, the next year I'm teaching again. And so, but I spent about 3 or 4 years with him, and he probably was a model, without boxing myself, and he was a model that I could follow a path. And then he died of cancer, of bone marrow cancer, and it was horrific. And so while I really mourn him, and I was with friends this week all talking about how we missed him and what it would be like now if he was here, something about his death paved the way for me, because I moved into the path where he was, and in some ways I was the only person who could do in our group what he was doing. But what he did, another thing he taught me was imparting it to others. So a lot of artists, when they have some secret little thing, they keep the secret sauce, Kentucky Fried Chicken and secret sauce. And it's a lot more interesting and challenging, or challenge the wrong word, fulfilling to help other people find not my path, but their path in the same way, and how to start telling stories and how to reach out and touch people. So, like, as far as like in the worship world, in church worship, if there's one thing to tell anybody, Margaret, hello Margaret, just saying hello. Sounds like Barry Humphries then, just throwing in a little one-liner. Only the Aussies will know who that is. But is that from my father and my grandfather and Nigel all had the same thing, is that when they were performing, the most important people in the whole world at that moment was the audience. Not them, not the song that they chose, not the amps, not the sound, not the band, but the audience. And what I struggle to understand is how little that is taught anywhere. So you can go to university for 3 years and get a music degree, and no one's taught you that the audience is the most important thing. My father told me a great thing when I was clowning around on stage once when I was playing with his band. And he told me one reason why they're the most important thing. He said, see these people here? And he used a few little words. They pay your rent. They put food on your table. And you're treating them with disrespect. You're clowning around, and that really hit me hard, you know. I have another story in the same thing where I was a guy called John Brownrigg. He was also, I guess, a mentor in that sense. I was playing somewhere Broken Hill, way out in the bush in Australia, and we were getting paid by the door. And while that was great for 2 or 3 weeks, all of a sudden we're playing in rooms with could seat 500 or 1,000 people, and there's 20 people there, and we just drove 8 hours in a truck, and it's hot, and so I was 22 years old or something, and I was not giving my best performance, would be the best way of saying this. I was just going through the motions, you know, like this. And at the break, at intermission, he pulled me aside and told me off and said, similar thing to my father. He said, look, see that lady over there in the audience? She's worked really hard this week, and her one night out, and he's a typical storyteller. One night out, she's coming here, and her life's hard enough as this. She's in a mining town, and it's not great. Unemployment's really. It tells this great story, and I get guilty and get guiltier. And he said, if the Queen of England was here, how would you perform? How much would you give? What would you be thinking? You'd be giving every ounce of your talent, your blood, sweat, and tears. I want you to treat her like the Queen. And I really got it straight away, and that's something that has never left me. That was, 30 odd years ago. And that's the thing that 99% of people in Christian music don't get. It's all about me, or it's about what the pastor thinks, or they're worried about something or other. No, that person there and that person there. And you give it to them. You'll see a really good performer. You'll see when you go somewhere. I remember seeing Sigur Rós in the Hollywood Bowl, and they took me somewhere for 2 hours. I saw Sade also in LA. Same thing. She took me somewhere for 2.5 hours, and that's actually her job. But anyway, that's the Freud moment right there, Cameron.